Well, hello, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday afternoon weekly training by Boyd and Jim, sponsored by Entrepreneur Factory and, of course, BP Media and E2 Total Solutions. So enough of that. Boyd's going to be teaching today. The topic is content. So many of us struggle a great deal coming up with fresh content, always getting new content. Google has a requirement for fresh content and updated content and all of those things. So Boyd's going to go through some ways to get that content without having to generate it all yourself. I know that's always taxing and hard for you to come up with. So Boyd, take it away, and I will jump in where I think it's fitting.
Perfect. So one of the things that I find is there's a lot of people out there who they tell me, Boyd, I've done about 15 or 20 different posts. I don't know what to write about next. And I have a whole thing that we can do, called Recipe for Social Media Success. And that's great. But, sometimes you just want to have other people generate some of the content. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I left a little note in there that says subtitle. I meant to put in something that said, and things that are going to go bump in the night. No, I'm good. Yeah. So anyway, let's get on with this. So, the first thing we want to do is let's talk about content curation. Content curation is something that a lot of customers do, a lot of companies do. When they find something that is really interesting in their industry, they'll repost it. And that's what curation is all about, is reposting it again. But there's a few things you have to know about it, or you can get into trouble. Content curation is great, and people don't mind allowing you to repost what they posted, as long as you are giving them credit. So you might say, hey, I saw this on, and then you give the name of a magazine. So on Huffington Post or the Washington Post, or whatever it might be, tell them where you saw this, and sometimes add in a kind of a commentary as to why you liked it. But generally, content curation is again about things that are done inside your actual industry generally. So we love to do the content curation. So, and Jim, you've got some examples on this, don't you?
I do. I have a client that deals with anxiety and depression. And what we've done is link building is so important to building the reputation of this site and for Google to understand everything about it. And what we've done is we actually built some outlying sites. The one that I'm thinking of is called Signs of Anxiety. And what we did is that looks like a blog site. Virtually, there's probably, right now, I'm going to say 15 or 20 blogs on it. Every one of those blogs is curated content. And so what's happened is there's a lot of information out there on the internet about anxiety and depression. And we've taken those articles, we've created a blog, if you will, from that article and given credit. And it's unbelievably important to Google to give the credit where credit is due. So we said, hey, we found this cool article about anxiety and depression, and we thought it would be valuable for you. So there's a link off to the whoever generated the content, let's say the depression article, but we also have inbound links to my client site with, everywhere that it says depression in that article, we've created inbound link. The thing that's important is that we're also driving that to a link we wrote about depression on my client's website. So we've got some information, a website that exists out there in the world with an inbound link to my client. And so when Google finds that link, follows it backward, there's an article about depression. When they follow it inbound, then of course there's information about depression. So we're doing kind of two things at the same time. we're using curated content we did not have to generate. We give credit where credit is due. That can be kind of a no follow link and then an inbound link to generate links for my clients. So it's a kind of a complex strategy, but that's welcome to my world. So that's what's going on with that. But we're using 100% curated content on that other site to drive links into my client site.
So it's kind of like when you see all these different articles out there, you're pulling them all together for someone to be able to find them all in one place.
Exactly.
And that's a cool thing. Now you can do the same thing with social media as well. And so if you get somebody you're seeing content that really works for you, bring that in and utilize it. So you don't have to be on your website. You don't have to write articles all the time. Sometimes it's all about your social media. You don't have to be figuring out what you're going to write about or what you're going to post about. And that way you can keep up with it easier by posting it. Now, one other thing, if you're posting their picture, if they've purchased that picture, if you give them credit for it, you don't have to purchase the picture as well. That's one of the cool things about giving credit to them. It keeps the credit for the picture being used with the original company that purchased the premium picture that they may be using.
The royalty
photograph. The royalties.
Yeah.
And so the companies who do that, as long as you give them credit, they can't come back after you. And if you don't do that, they can come after you, because then it's looking like you've created the content. And so you're going to have Google with their SEO mad at you, and you're going to have the company who sold the picture to someone else, and you're using it now. And you're going to end up paying with penalties, not monetarily penalties from Google, but you will have monetary penalties from whoever owns that picture. So very, very important to make sure you tell everyone who you got this from. And so it's a good thing to do. So let's go on and talk a little bit about some other things. We're going to talk about customer reviews. These are really important. And so now, of course, you want to get customer reviews on your Facebook and your on your Google My Business. Thank you. But utilize them on your website. Utilize it on your social media. Get those reviews and put a picture with them, the name, and you don't have to give the whole name. Put the first full name and last initial, or first initial of the first name and last initial or last name. Be sure to keep it consistent, though, for when you're putting it on your website and on others. And it is important to have a picture, but not if you've got people who say, no, I don't want my picture used, then you just simply have to go along with their name. So any comments on that, Jim?
I do. I like that picture idea. But you can also include a YouTube video, a link to a YouTube video, or put the YouTube video on your site. So the power of a video is becoming, much, it already was significant, but Google's making it more and more so. So if you can get a video, even a short one, 15, 30 seconds, and then put that on your site, or your YouTube site, and then drive a link into your website with that, it's a very powerful component.
So using a video from a customer is great. In fact, there's a couple of programs out there that you can use that'll allow customers to record videos and testimonial videos, and then it will help them place them on those. So if it's something that you're looking for, let us know. We'll give you some ideas about that. Okay. Now, one of my favorites is user-generated content. Now, a lot of people say, well, what in the heck is that? User-generated. I'm going to tell you what happened to me with my newspaper company that I used to own. We ran a contest that was called, Where Do You Read Your Journal? Now, we started it off as a contest, after a few months, we just switched it to just anybody could send in there, where do you read your journal? And we would put the pictures, the best pictures were in our newspapers, and all pictures were put up on our social media sites. This ended up being some really fun things. Oh, we also had a page on each of our websites for each of the newspapers we owned. And we got thousands and thousands of people that would go there because, you know, somebody would send in a picture of them in the Uintas camping and reading our newspaper, and we'd put it up there, and they'd tell their friends, and their friends would say, oh, this is cool, and pretty soon they're following us, and we're getting lots of people following us, more people following us, but also a lot of people who are liking and commenting and sharing it themselves. Now, we had people going all over the world taking their newspapers so they could take a picture. We had one picture of an airline pilot sitting in his cockpit. Now, you couldn't see his face, but you saw the back of him, but you saw the journal that he's reading. And between the journal and the top of the cockpit, you saw the words, "Welcome to Heathrow Airport." So he was in Heathrow, London airport, and he was taking this picture. But we had pictures from all over the world. We had them on beaches all over the world. We had them Machu Picchu down in Peru. We had, it was just everywhere you could think of. And we had a great success with that. So user-generated content is great because they send in the picture, and all we have to do is put it up, and it was done. So it was great. And so we loved user-generated content for all means. So, you know, social media.
We
Go
did
ahead.
the same thing with a client, and the client was called Sunrise Coffee Shop, and they had a little foam ball. It was like looked like the sunshine man on a box of Raisin Bran or something. People would literally fly all over the world and take pictures of themselves with this little sunrise ball. The thing that's cool is that two things happen. First of all, they engage with you and write content, and they say, well, we were on on this safari and in the outbacks of Africa, and we took our little foam ball with us and we took pictures, and they sent it in. So they're generating content. Those types of clients tend to be what do you call them, ecstatic fans?
Yeah, they're fanatical.
Fanatical fans, that's what they're called. So they tend to be fanatical, and they love to talk about you, love to share with you. Their friends probably like to hear their stories about you. So that's what you're going for, is find those fanatical clients, give them something they can go take a picture with, and then have them tell that story and then share that story. So that's a great way to get more content, is to have them write it for you.
And with social media, we had a lot of them that were sharing it all over the internet. And so it drove a lot of traffic into us. And so it was not unusual for us to pick up 1,000 users a month on one site with the right content in there. And it was all user generated. We didn't have to do anything but post it. And so we would try to post one a day. Sometimes we had so much we had to do 2 on some days. But you know, it was between our 14 newspapers, we'd have 400 to 500 of them every month. And it was fantastic what we were doing. And it was all over the world, and that was fun. So in fact, I know of one person, they went to England on vacation, and they took a picture there, and they took a picture of them reading it, but they also took a picture of their relatives that are in England and them reading it. And then when we posted it on our site, they posted it over to England, and from there it got reposted and shared probably in the neighborhood of 40 times. And so people from England were signing up to see our newspaper stuff, and that was kind of cool. So anyway, let's move on to the next one, which is professional videos. one of the things that we don't recommend that you do professional videos all the time, but you can if you want. And there's some programs that will work for you if you want to do that. But the key is from time to time, have a professional video shot. If you've never done a professional video, the best one that I always recommend is, what is your why? Why do you have your business? Why do you love doing what you're doing? And have that one done. And then once you go beyond that, then it's time to do a few others. Most of the videos that I shoot are with my camera, my phone on my camera on my phone, not my phone on my camera. Sometimes it feels like that. But just shoot a video and put it up there. But doing a professional video, you don't have to do anything but sit in front of the camera and explain something. I have one client, they did their why, they've done their mission statement, their vision statement. They've done a few other things that were along that line that help draw people in. And then occasionally they even have this professional company do some videos of their clients so that they have those customer review videos professionally done. And some
the word professional, I think, scares a lot of people. And they have these crazy ideas that has to be uber expensive, which is not really the case. There's several colleagues that we have that we both do business with that do shoot professional videos very affordably. And I want to say, I was involved with one of them that was inside the foyer of a building. It happens to be the building where the Murray Chamber of Commerce was. And it was just in the foyer. We did it late in the afternoon. There was no businesses around. He brought in his camera. It was on a tripod. It was, really, really clean and stable. And that's we had kind of an idea what we were going to say, and it worked out beautifully. And that's what a professional video was. I think it was only a few $100s to get this guy to shoot it for us. The other ones that you're talking about that you shoot with your camera, those tend to actually get, in many cases, larger viewership because they look authentic. And there's somebody there, taking a kind of a selfie video, and they shake around a little bit. There's a lot of information out there in the world that says those get greater views than sometimes the professional ones.
So those are some cool things. I would look at the professional, but also look at doing it your own ones on your camera. But, of course, we're talking about creating things that you don't have to be in charge of. And so that's why we went with professional video here.
Yeah.
But another one that we wanted to talk about is reposting hot content. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to do with your industry. One of the things that we found is people like to have things broken up on their social media. And social media is where this mainly fits. You don't want to try to do this on your website as much. But if you've got some hot thing that's going on that, like we have a couple of groups here that are singing groups that get lots and lots of followers. Well, when they launch something, sometimes that hot content just explodes on them. Well, we've done that where we've taken their hot content and put it on our site. Now, of course, they're getting credit for it because you still want to give them credit, and they're getting traffic to their site, but it's also getting a lot of people so that they recognize that we're doing that too. And we actually get additional people who want to follow us because of it. So reposting hot content is not bad, even if it's not about your industry. We did one with a company that is an auto repair shop, and they had a song from a local artist here, and they put that up there, and they picked up about 250 people who they had not had before that ended up coming in to their site because when you search for it, it'll give them several different sites where they can go and see it. And, of course, sometimes that's over on YouTube, but that's okay. Some hot content is not there. and it's great to do. So hot content is one that I always recommend to people. When you're on something and you see something that is really getting, blowing up in there, take advantage of it. But again, make sure you give them the credit for it so that you're not getting into trouble. Anything additional?
I want to just kind of reemphasize, I know that we've said this several times, but it can damage your SEO in multiple ways if you don't give credit where credit is due. First of all, it kind of looks like duplicate content, and Google will punish you if you have duplicate content. But if you simply give a credit for whoever posted that, then you get the SEO bump, they get an SEO bump. It just works out for everybody. I just want to re-emphasize, don't plagiarize content, give credit where credit is due.
Yeah. All right. Next one up is promotion of blogs and case studies. Now, this one's important because this is going to, for your social media, it's going to be important for your website, and it drives a lot of traffic there. So when you put up a blog or, an article in your blog, or you put up a case study, then put it on your social media. Do something small and push people there. But you don't have to just do the headline. Do sub-headlines as well, and draw people in from different angles of what that article is about. And my expert, Jim, is going to talk more about how that all can work for us.
Absolutely. So blogs are a key part of any website, and there is part of the Google algorithm that you have to have fresh content and current content. And there's two types of content that really happen in the blog and a case study. In the blog in particular, there's real relevant, real fresh content, and then there's something that we refer to as evergreen content, and that tends to be more timely. What I like to emphasize is that if you want to talk about skiing, snow skiing, you can talk about snow conditions and pine trees and jumps and stuff like that. That's all evergreen content. If you talk about a ski racer like Gaboo Street or something, they tend to be a flash in the pan. So you need a little bit of mix of both, evergreen content and really current hot content, like you mentioned in the previous article. The other things are case studies that make it, they're position you as a expert in the field, if you will. I've got a client right now that wrote a 60,000 word kind of syllabus on his industry. And so if we post that on an individual page and Google reads it, and Google will call it eventually, it's going to have 60,000 words of content that have the possibility of positioning him as an expert in his field. I don't want you to start taking books and writing case studies about books or whatever, but think about a case study in your field that you have some extreme knowledge of. That's going to position you higher in the SRPs, search engine result pages, than somebody that doesn't have that type of content, that type of case study, that number of words. And it's interesting that the number of words becomes so relevant in a position like this, because it does make you the expert in that field.
And one of the best things when, like I mentioned, with social media, is you grab a piece of that and you start with the headline, but then you make sure that they're breaking it up by using some subheadlines, and then you can draw people in. So to give an example, I have a customer that we did an article about, this was in February. We did the article about making sure that they sit down with their entire staff and put their goals together for their business. Now, this business, you got to understand, had been trying for 3 years to break above the $2 million mark, and it was always just below it. But they weren't dropping, but they always were just below it. Finally, when they decided to do this, they wrote up their all the goals that they had. They came up with how the incremental goals so that they could see that they're on track, and they got everybody in the company and their advisors to come, and they all worked together on this. Now, one of the cool things about this was by the end of the year, they were at $3.8 million. So they had almost doubled their sales simply by putting together those goals. Now, that's the article. So we put in there about how, started, have you done your goal setting for, and I think this was in 2015. And we put that in there. And then a week later, we did another article about how do incremental goals help you achieve your major goals. And then we did another one about making sure that your team is all on board with the goals. And each of these things were highlighted in the article, and it worked out really well, because what drew in some people, it didn't draw in others, but other things drew them all in. And so by the time we were finished with that article, we had 4 posts out there, and we drew in over 1,000 people. Now, an interesting thing about that is one of the people that drew in was the guy who did that with this company, but he had gone on and moved on and wasn't using her anymore. And she was a CFO consultant. And so he had stopped using her about 1.5 years earlier because he had gotten his own CFO, where she was the CFO for them for a long time, because he got so big. But then he came to her and said, you know what? I forgot to do this year. Oh my gosh. That's what can happen. You get all these people coming in, and pretty soon it gets back to the person that you're doing the case study about. And maybe in her case, it ended up him coming back, and now she teaches and helps the CEO how to be, or CFO, how to be a better CFO. And so she meets with him on a monthly basis, and it created additional income for her, because now she can charge them a little bit more, because now she's training a CFO. So, okay, so those are some of the things that we use when we don't want to create our own thing. But, one of the other things I wanted to talk about with this is, how do you get and maintain engagement? This is really hard. A lot of people say, I start and I get a lot of engagement on my posts, and whether it's curated or you're creating it yourself. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some engagement strategies. And I've got some that are, you're going to go, oh yeah, okay, we should do that. But some of them are going to be kind of a little in your face. And you're going to go, really? You can do that? And yes, you can. So let's start with this one. Your goal is to build a relationship with your audience. You can use metrics to analyze this, but you need to know how to do it. Okay. So what does that mean? So the goal is to build a relationship. How do you build relationships? Well, you got to know the customers that you have already. And that's part of the thing with social media, is know your businesses. And then as you get going with it, you're going to engage with them better, because then you're going to ask them questions. You're going to use all the things that you're using on social media to draw people in. And there's 3 types, well, there's several types of engagement. In fact, I think I'll tell you that in a few minutes. But you want to make sure that you're getting people to respond when you've got a call to action. And I'm going to tell you, not all call to actions involves money. Call to actions can be, like we did a program one time where we just asked the question, so which do you like better? Do you like chocolate or Fridays? Well, that's a call to action, because you want them to do something. You want them to respond to you. When I do my books, I always put up my covers to be analyzed by them. Do you like this cover or that cover? And then I get engaging with them, get going with engagement by simply asking them, well, why did you like this cover over that cover? Why did you like that one over this one? And pretty soon I'm getting additional ideas. And so it's all about building relationships. And that's part of this. Jim, do you have something?
I- yes, I agree 100% that building the relationship is the most important. And I'm a fan of the analytics. I really like to get in and see the details and see, how many people engaged. And then when you clarified the question, how many people re-engaged, or how many people are following up with those questions. So it's absolutely fascinating to me, and it's a really important part of your business.
Right. Well, the next thing I was going to say is you got to post great content every day. Now, it doesn't always have to be content about you and your business, but post great content every day. And you do want to make sure your business is part of it. And you do want to make sure that your logo is on there, even if you're doing an inspirational quote or a quote of the day. Be sure to put your logo on it so people recognize, hey, this is from ABC Company. So doing that is really important. The
So
next
Boyd,
one, go ahead.
You have an opinion about the location of the logo, and it's always the lower left corner. Why is that important?
So what we found was a lot of people put their logo at the top of their post. And can I tell you, that is probably one of the worst places to put it. Yes, people will recognize it. They'll see it. They'll also move on faster if they've seen it too many times. What you want to do is you want to catch their attention. So in marketing, one of the things we do is we talk about the 4 different characteristics of a good ad. Now, you don't need all 4, but the first one you have to. That's an interrupt. Interrupt them in some ways. Now, a quote of the day will interrupt them. Something where you're starting to talk to them about something that will interrupt them. But did you notice your logo wasn't one of those that interrupts people? It actually gets people to push on. And so the second one is engagement. And so you got to have something engaging. Now, quote of the day, you probably aren't going to have too much of an engagement on it, but most of them you do. You want to have something engaging. Ask a question, do this or that, teach them something, and then say, what do you think about this? Get it so that they're engaging. The third thing is that you educate them. Now, a lot of times on social media, that education will come in by sending them to a website, or it's a mini blog on their social media. And number 4 is a compelling offer. Now, on social media, you don't want the offer to be there. You want it over on the website. But you do want, with that compelling offer, you want to put your logo there. And so we use the bottom left corner for ours because we have found after study that if you consistently put your logo in the same place, and it's either the bottom left or the bottom right corner, you'll get better recognition. Top of mind awareness is what it's called. But we found that it's 5% higher if it's on the left side than if it's on the right. 5% isn't a lot, but we go after everything we can get. So that's why we always put it in the bottom left-hand corner, because your people don't care who you are until they know that you care, that you can take care of a problem, or you're interrupting them is what you're doing. And that's why we put it at the bottom always.
I want to say something kind of interesting.
Okay.
I use an automated posting platform that most of you guys are aware of. And if you're aware of Entrepreneur Factory, then of course you're aware of what it is. But I make these beautiful, beautiful posts in the beginning, and it has some text that runs through it. And I would always forget my logo is going to block out some of that text. So I ultimately now remember, and I adjust everything accordingly, because I know that my logo is going to be in that same position every single time. I did in the beginning forget about my logo, so And that comes in from an automated perspective. And I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. Remember that that's going to show up, so that when you see your post, it's like, oh my gosh, I covered my content. So
Yeah. And I had a ad agency the other day that came unglued because I put that logo in the bottom left of their ad that they were doing. They're trying to get people to donate money to a clinic that's being built, and they put the they put the logo for it at the top right, and I put one in the bottom left, which happened to go over some of the areas where they could do the donation. And so I ended up taking ours off. But as I got talking to this guy that was doing their ads, I told him why we always put it in the bottom left. And by the end of it, he was going, I wish I had known this. I've only been doing this for 15 years. And, it's not well known, but it works. And part of it is that, they should have put those numbers or plate ways to donate toward the middle instead of at the bottom of their program. Of course, they were trying to use it as the compelling call to action. And I'm going, not really.
well, when you think about it, I mean, it's human nature to, with your eyes, scan. And so you have it in the bottom left corner. You have to read that whole ad or consume that information, which is the whole point. Anyway, so get them to consume that information, put your logo at the bottom. It all makes sense.
And of course, left to right is where they're reading. And so they're going to see that before they close out. So
Exactly.
that works. All right. And the next one is do testing and watch what is getting you better engagement. Jim and I, we were working with a company and we did 2 ads and we were testing them both out. And it was interesting. We got about 62% of the people who responded to the one ad. And the other one was, just less than 40%, 38%. But, as we got looking at it, they both were given to the same amount of people, but one worked better than the other. Understand when you do something like that, to now look at that one that got to 62% and utilize it more. Because if you're doing that, it's going to work better for you. And testing is a really good thing. A/B testing is what we call it. And some people will even do ABC testing. That gets a little more complicated because then you're dividing it between 3. And what if A would have worked really good with the C people? What if, and there's a lot of different things. But be sure when you're doing testing, get the analytics, see what's working, what's the best, and utilize that, whichever one is the best, going forward.
Awesome.
Okay, next one is respond to comments, direct messages, and reviews. Jim, take that one. You know a lot about that one too.
Absolutely. So the thing that's important is that you respond either way, if it's negative or positive. And I tend to go off a little tiny bit on the negative ones because there's so many different ways to handle a negative comment or a negative review. And a lot of people kind of get shell shocked or paralyzed a little bit. If somebody doesn't like them, it's like, oh my gosh, what do I say to them? What do I do? Well, Google in particular wants to know that you're taking care of your clients. So at the end of the day, a no response is far worse in Google's eyes than if you respond and say, gee, I'm sorry, what can we do to make this up to you or make it better? Or can we try harder next time? And, you guys all know that I do the SEO thing and I care a great deal about how Google sees the world, and a no response, just Google will punish you for it. So respond either way and take care of the client. I've got a quick story about a client that we had in New York City, and he wrote a scathing review of my company. It was a deli, and he just said, the kitchen looked messy and the food was, I didn't think was good, and blah blah. He just went on and on and on. And people that are angry tend to write bigger reviews or bigger comments than people that like you. I mean, if they like you, they just say, "Oh, I loved it. It was great." If they're pissed off, then they tend to write really long dissertations on what was wrong with their experience. And so we ultimately responded to that experience. Well, not ultimately, we responded quite quickly and invited him to come back in and spend some time with the kitchen staff. And so had written a negative review. He came in and saw that the kitchen was clean, and saw that, you know, we had a great pizza out, and saw that we made great sandwiches, and really engaged with my clients, and ultimately went back and changed his review, or added to his review, and said, you know, gee, I was mistaken. It was such a great experience. I spent an afternoon with him. I loved him. I'm going to go back. You know, I'm going to take all my friends back. And so it really made an impact with a bunch of people that came in and said, hey, I saw that review, and I saw that he changed the oven. You know, or this, you know, cook a pizza in the oven. Let me, you know, pick my pizza, or let me choose my sandwich. And they actually generated a lot of business and got a lot of comments because of that one negative experience that they responded to and turned it into a positive.
You know, and that's one of the big things with reviews. If you get a bad review, it can actually generate a lot more business for you by how you handle that. And so I've had customers who got bad reviews, and then they went back, found out what was going on. They helped correct it. And when people see what you are doing to take care of your customers, they're more willing to come and work with you as well, because they want to do business with people who are going to take care of their customers. And so that's a really good thing. Also, commenting on them is really important as well. I have one customer who, social media, Facebook, it tells me on it how quickly they respond. And one month I get this message, and it says the average response time from when someone sends a message is 6 days and 23 hours. I'm going, what? So I'm looking through the comments on this. Now, this is a company that does remediation for water, fire, mold, all kinds of things. So they're taking care of all these disaster things. Well, they had 3 different people that got on there and said, how much would it cost? Or can you do this within 2 days? Or, you know, and they kept asking questions. They weren't responding. You got to get in there. You got to know what's going on at least once a day. And in the case of this company, they probably need to be in there 3 times a day, because when a disaster happens, you only have hours before they're on to someone else. Mm-hmm. And sometimes only minutes. So take care of your customers. And when they give you a comment or they send you a direct message, be sure to do something about that. And then on reviews, even if you get a good review, now if it's just 5 stars, say thank you. But if they tell the story, go in and continue and tell them more about what your feeling was for having them come in and how appreciative you are for them. And that will turn around and do great things for you.
I know that there's part of an algorithm works with the review, that if they leave you like a 10-sentence review, you need to respond maybe with 6 or 7 sentences, just to kind of, you know, keep it balanced out and equal. About 75% of what they review you for, you need to respond to with about 75% of that same. And I think of it as data, you know, number of words, or however you want to describe it. That's the best way to go about it.
What we found is when you do 60 to 65% of whatever they did, so like he said, a 10-line review, do at least 6 to 7, and then it will really give you a great glowing thing with SEO, but it also helps your customers or prospects, I guess, know better about you as well. Hey, they know that customer. They knew that story. They remembered that customer. That's somebody I want to deal with.
One little trick I like to throw in, Boyd, is that when you respond to that review, always ask a leading question at the end of that review. So that will encourage them to respond back to you. So what, and I hate to keep saying this, but what Google wants to see is interaction between you and the client. So if he leaves a review and you interact back and then ask a question, he kind of has to come back to you, because they like seeing that engagement back and forth between you and your clientele. They want to see that you're engaged with your customers.
That's true. Well, I went ahead. I was going to do hashtags. Find hashtags. Hashtags will draw new people in. And so be sure to find the right hashtags for you. I'm working with a client right now that's in this little town in southern Utah. And well, it's not such a little town anymore. It's a bigger town. But you know what? I was looking for hashtags that are used by people in that town. And I'm right now up to 65 different hashtags, and I haven't gotten through everything yet. And then what we'll do is we'll pare them down for this company. But you need to find at least, 12 or 15 that you can use regularly. And don't use too many. In fact, if you use 30 or more, Facebook Instagram will not allow you to post that post. You can only go up to 29. And then when you hit 30, bang, you're out. Okay, so just here's what I recommend. Put 6 or 8 with your post, and then add another comment after, and you can put up to 29 more with that. And then if you still have some that you want to put in, but don't overdo it, but if there is something that just is so compelling, put a second comment in there with a few more, but never go beyond 2. So that's something to do. Now, the last one here is hooray for a giveaway. Yes, giveaways and contests are really important to use when you're trying to get engagement up. And we've done that for a coffee shop, and they got lots of engagement. So we're not going to go into it in detail right now, because we've got some other things that we want to teach you about, and we're running out of time. Isn't that interesting?
We're filling up the hour.
I know. Well, I'm going to quickly go through 10 ways to re-engage those that are not responding. Okay, so if you've got a lot of people that just aren't responding, here's the 10 things. And I'm just going to go through them fast. We're not going to give you any comment on them, but I want you to understand them. So be real. Consistency and quality. I had a customer the other day. Okay, here I'm telling a story. I told you I wouldn't. I had a customer the other day. They post maybe once every 2 months. And sometimes it's every 3 or 4. And then 1 year it was twice. So once we got them consistently and they were quality things, they suddenly had everybody coming back. They were paying attention to it, and they were responding to it. And so it's a great way to get re-engagement. Consistency. Utilizing groups is a real good one. Whether you're a part of a group or you own a group, those are great. Use shout outs. Wonderful way of getting more engagement. Post better content. Now that goes along with consistency and quality, and be real, but it's better content. Find out what your customer's looking for so that you can put the right content up for them. Mix up the content. It's not always the same 2 or 3 things. I have so many people who have done this, and it's not a good thing to just simply educate all the time or sell to them all the time. Nobody likes to be sold all the time. Now on Facebook and Instagram, they now have stories and reels. Stories are for your customers and only last for 24 hours or only 30 seconds long. Reels can go up to 2 minutes long, go to non-customers, and will last until you take them down. So make sure it's an evergreen thing. But that's a great one to re-engage some of your contacts that you have. Giveaways, contests, these are a great one to do that too. Respond to every comment. This is a big one, and we mentioned it a few minutes ago. And then the last one is add a call to action to all posts. I mentioned this earlier. Just simply ask a question at the end. or ask them to do something. I did one time where I said, what is the best book you have ever read about X? And it could be about business, it could be about anything you want. But by doing that, I picked up people that I'd not heard from for years, and they told me about some of the best books that they had read. Some of them were books that I knew about, and some were brand new that I have now gone out and read. Now these are two different ones that I have here. The first one from Nantucket School, that is a story. You can tell it's a story because it's connected four different 30-second stories together, and you see that in the little. Let me go here. Right here, it has a split, and here it has another split, and here it has another split. That means 4 different segments have been put together. But this has done really well for getting people re-engaged. The other one is from a local restaurant here, and this is a reel that they put out. And they put out a reel every week, and then they take it down at the end of the week, and it's drawing in new customers, but then they also show it to their current customers, and they have doubled their business in the last 5 months by doing this type of a program. So, I mean, who doesn't want the banana chocolate pancakes with the Nutella, bananas, and whipped cream? Okay, somebody doesn't like bananas, like my daughter. But you know what? When they had the blueberry ones the next week with a specialty syrup on it, she was in there in a heartbeat. And that's the thing. Utilize these kind of things. All right, next up, some aggressive engagement strategies. We're going to go through these kind of quick because we're down to less than 7 minutes that we want to be finished. Okay, tag influencers that have the same or similar customer or prospect base. So these are important to do. However, there are some influencers that don't want you doing that, but most will allow you to do that. When you're not competing with them, they will then allow you to do that. In fact, a lot of times they'll reach out to you and say, how would you like me to, mention you on in my posts? And some will charge for it, some won't. So it's always a good thing to do. And if they don't like it, they'll just simply say
Block
no.
them, yeah.
Sorry?
Block you.
Yeah, well, they won't block you usually. What they'll do is they'll have it so that you can't tag them in the future. And I guess it's blocking them from tagging. Blocking, when I think of it, is they're blocking you from even seeing what they're doing, but they don't usually do that. Okay. Next one is invite friends. So many people forget to do this. Jim and I worked with a mortgage company, and we couldn't get the employees and the owner to invite their friends to follow them on Facebook, on Instagram, on anything. And they couldn't get anything started. And so
some of the people in the office didn't even follow up.
Yeah. And so why would other people do it if the people in the office aren't even doing it? Okay. Like bombing. Now, this is a little more involved. I'm not going to get into it today, but it's a great one to use when you're trying to get a specific post so it goes viral faster if you think that you've got one. Another one is put together an engagement group. And this is where a lot of people get together and they say, hey, I'm going to be posting on Monday. You're going to post on Tuesday, and we're going to go in and like it really quick. And we're all going to do it right at 10 a.m. And so at 10 a.m., you all go in, and whoever's turn it is, they put it in there, and everybody goes in and quickly likes it. And this pushes it up into the search options on Instagram especially, but even on Facebook. And pretty soon you got more people outside of your group liking it too, because now it's been seen. And so the key is getting a whole bunch of people to do that. Yeah, 5 is what sometimes we use. I've been in a group that had 15 people in it, but just that few can really do it. Like for likes. This is a program that a lot of people started back years ago, but it's changed over the years. And if you want to know more about it, let's talk, because that's, again, a little more in depth as to how to do it. And then one of the things I'm going to tell you is don't buy followers. It decreases your influencer status, and it will actually make it so that you have problems in the future, especially if you do it with certain companies that Jim and I have had some companies work with.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell a real quick story about one of our
Yes.
mutual clients. He had some development work done in, I'm just going to say not United States, India. And I said, well, gee, I can get you some followers. And so he basically bought followers. And he had, when I first engaged with him, he said, hey, I have 20,000 followers on Facebook. And I go, man, this is going to be easy to help him. And what we found out is that Facebook ended up, things happened. Facebook was hammering him because all of his clients were offshore, out of the United States. And the guy that had control of his Facebook page, got pissed at him because he moved his business, to another client, me, and then wouldn't let him make any changes to his Facebook page. So he lost all those 20,000 followers, and he couldn't control his own page. We even contacted Facebook, and we ended up starting from ground zero because he couldn't get control of his site. So that's a bad story, but bad things happen in the real world.
That's true. Well, anyway, that's today's lessons that we wanted to get to you, the teachings. These are all important things. So starting with how to write things that are utilizing content that you don't have to write all the time or produce, and then going into strategies to engage with people is what the second half of it was.
And I want to say this too, is that social media is the new medium to get engagements. You ultimately want the people on your site, you want to know them personally, you want to interact with them, through your website, through your store, whatever. Social media is how you find all those, million people that you can start to interact with.
Yep. So that's today's lesson or training. I hope that it helps you. It's been great doing this with Jim. Every Tuesday we do that. So please check our schedule. You can go to bpmedia.com and then click on this seminar tab. I think on entrepreneur-factory.com, you can go there and do the same thing there. So be sure to do this so that you can get the Tuesday trainings is what it is. Tuesday free trainings that we do every Tuesday.
And we're 1 minute under time.
Oh dear, we better quit before we're behind. Okay.
Everyone
Thank you, everyone.